Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to wait 2 minutes for our audience to join us, so we'll be starting in 2 minutes past. Thank you for your patience. If you have questions in the meantime that you'd like to pose to the panelists, please type them in the chat box you can see on your right-hand side, and we'll be answering them at the end of the session. Thank you so much. Thanks for joining. We're just going to wait 1 more minute to allow the audience to join, and we'll kick off. Okay, hi everybody. My name is Amanda Sly from AWS, and I'm delighted to have you here today to talk about how to accelerate your migration journey. And I'm delighted to have 3 guests with me on the call today: Sean Horton from Vitality, Matt Keeble and Alan White from Bytes. And we'll be talking a little bit about how they've taken the journey to migration and hoping to share some good practice with you on the call today. So without further ado, I'm going to ask my panelists to introduce themselves, tell us a little bit about their roles, and we'll kick off. And Sean, can I start with you, please, if you take a moment to introduce yourself and your role at Vitality?
Sure. Hi, Amanda. Thanks for having me here today. So I'm Sean Horton. I'm the head of technology and IT operations at Vitality Group. So I look after all the technology in that space and the operations thereof. The scope of that includes the private cloud environment and the public cloud environment, and runs from our call center, which we call Vitality Assist, through the design, build, transition, and run of our technology stack here at Vitality.
Fabulous. Thank you. Matt?
Yeah, hi everyone. So I'm Matt. I'm the head of the AWS practice here. We're an advanced consultancy partner with Amazon. I'm effectively the conduit between our technical team, the Amazon account management team, the customer and the Bytes accounts team. So bringing everything together and ensuring my colleague like Alan are able to support you guys.
And Alan, last but not least.
Thanks, Amanda. Hi, guys. So my name's Alan White. I'm a senior solutions architect at Bytes AWS Services. I work with a whole team of techies, designing, building, and testing AWS solutions. I work on professional services engagements of all manner of descriptions and sizes. And I specialize in infrastructure, security, and governance.
Great. Thanks so much, Alan. So Sean, back to you. I'd like to ask you a little bit about who are Vitality and what do they do? Great.
So at Vitality, we trade in the insurtech sector, which predominantly means that we use technology to provide insurance services, which is really key for us going forward in terms of how we position that technology to provide the best service to our business. And in that space, we trade across all the insurance sectors, really. We do life insurance, we do health insurance, we do car insurance, which is a new product we launched at the beginning of this year, and then we do investments as well. So we really look after that space. And we have quite a unique model. We have what we call our shared value model, and anyone who's a Vitality member will understand that. So the way that works is that we encourage you to become healthier, which then makes you happier. And if you become healthier, then your insurance premiums can then be affected as well in terms of being lower cost. And there's a whole system of rewards that we provide to you as well in terms of meeting certain targets. As you can imagine, that drives a massive technology dependency at the back end of that. And what's really nice about that is that in terms of that shared value model, we've proven that Vitality members are 40% more active than the general population because of that shared value about if you exercise, if you get fitter, if you get healthier, we share that value with you as well. In terms of a rewards program, we estimate that about we gave out about 103 million pounds worth of rewards in the last year. So as you can see, there's a big benefit to engage in that model. So that's us really. It's about making the world healthier and happier, and hopefully everybody lives longer.
Hey, that's a great tagline for any company. What a great organization to work for. Now, obviously, we had to talk about your migration to the cloud. So can you talk to us a little bit about what was the business case for migrating to cloud and why AWS specifically?
So for us, as I've spoken about a little bit earlier, is we're an insurtech company. So one of our key differentiators in the market is our ability to innovate at pace. And that's to bring new products to market and to bring new partners on as well. So we have a whole host of partners that we engage with that provide products, they provide rewards and a whole lot of other benefits to our members. And what we found was that it was taking us just too long to onboard new partners. And as an example, we brought on Mindful Chef. And once again, if you remember, you know all about the Mindful Chef. So you get a benefit. So if you meet certain targets, you'll get a £10 off your next Mindful Chef order. And we brought that from inception right through to go live in about 6 to 8 weeks.
Wow.
So that's whereas before that would have taken upwards of 6 months to do that. So the ability to continue that rapid pace of innovation was absolutely key for us in the business case, and which is how we got the support from the business as well, just being able to position that in the AWS space, we'd be able to get even better and better on that. The other great thing, certainly for me who was selling the business case, was there was a net cost saving over 5 years. So that always helps if you go and say, look, we're going to save you money over 5 years. So for us, that was a big piece of it as well. And then just the ability to scale up and down, as you can imagine, in our sort of environment, we don't have a consistent user or member engagement. There's certain times of the day it's higher, it's less. Certain times of the week when they're expecting their rewards, then everybody climbs on the portal and wants to see their rewards. So the ability to scale up and down, that flexibility that the AWS cloud gave us was great. And then the other benefit as well, which is sometimes kind of at the end of it, is just cost visibility. Just the ability to see where we're spending our money and where it's going, and then the ability to control that as well, because we know exactly what's driving our cost. And then as well, if you have quite a efficient CISO like I do, security is a big thing for us. And so the visibility of that security and the ability to apply best practice helped on that side as well. So we have way better visibility of our security space, and we've reduced the complexity of our environment. And that effectively was the pillars of the business case.
That's fantastic. So cost savings, security, and fast pace to deliver new innovations. That's an incredible story. Thank you for sharing that. And so Matt, as we think about Bytes, obviously a long-standing partner here in the UK, can you tell us a little bit about how Bytes are supporting customers on their AWS journey?
Yeah, absolutely. So as I referenced, we're what's called an advanced consultancy partner with AWS, which effectively means we've got an entire technical team with people like Alan who are able to deliver that end-to-end solution. So from inception, we want to move to AWS. We can help you build the business case that Sean's referenced. We can help you design and migrate. We can help you then modernize. We can help you support and understand the costs and retain that control that Sean's referenced. So we can be that end-to-end partner for people. We are Microsoft on AWS Partner of the Year for the last 2 years running. So hopefully we're going to defend our title this year and make it a hat trick. What that means is, we're recognised from Amazon as being the go-to partners for Microsoft workloads being migrated. So Windows and SQL, which obviously a lot of customers on this call and a lot of customers across the UK and Ireland will have. So we can help you understand that. And the way we do that is by, having our licensing expertise on top of our AWS expertise to be able to marry those up and ensure that when you're migrating, you're doing that in the most cost optimized and efficient manner.
That's really insightful. Thank you. And so, Sean, you've obviously chosen to use a partner that is part of your migration story and journey. Can you talk to us about why you chose a partner?
So for us, when we looked at the program of work ahead of us, it was a very daunting task. We're not a particularly big IT organization in comparison to some of the other business. We really run lean and mean, and we started to plan it out. And I've known Matthew for a while, and we engaged with them. And one of the key things that we found is looking at our project plan through engaging with Bytes is effectively we'd be able to complete the migration in about the time it was going to take us to plan it, which for us was great. And these things, you don't want them to drag out. There's real business benefits. So once you've got that approval to move forward, you want to move forward at pace. And for us, that was really the speed of execution was one of the key reasons. And the other one was the ability to rapidly create the final architecture that we're going to have in AWS. So once again, being a small shop, we looked at that, and once again, it's quite a daunting task. And given the best practice that Bytes bring to the party, it was really great to engage them and how quickly we got to what the final scenario would look like. And what was really useful for us in that process was we were able to retrofit a lot of that best practice back into our existing AWS environment. So this migration is taking more servers, more workloads into that space. So that ability to retrofit a lot of that so that our new environment is not a bolt-on to what we have, but a completely new environment, which engages across that. And the key thing for us was just the comfort of working with somebody who's done this before. And for us, that was the great thing. And it's some of the simple stuff. It's just around templates. Here's how you gather the information. Here's what you do it. The whole mobilize strategy around gathering information around the existing environment and use of tools like Cloudamize, for example, was great. And then ultimately, it was having the external resource to do a lot of the heavy lifting for us. So we didn't have to go and engage external third parties with that and bring extra resource in or employ new people. And then finally is just the engagement with AWS. Matt brings that experience, Bytes brings that experience on how best to engage with AWS and how best to make use of the programs that AWS has to help us in this space.
That's actually a great sequitur to Matt. So Sean just mentioned programs from AWS. Now, we certainly have a raft of programs to help our customers to accelerate their journey. What are the programs that you've leveraged to help Sean and others to accelerate their journeys to the cloud?
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the most important areas, I think, for customers to understand why a partner and why AWS. In the years that I've been working with Amazon, they are a really long-term view vendor, should I say. They really want to invest in you and see that your success is their success and vice versa. And the way they do that is to try and remove any financial obstacles to get you onto the cloud, because a lot of customers are still reticent and unaware of what the cloud would mean for them. So there's a few programs out there, but the ones I'd highlight today would be the Migration Acceleration Program, which is acronym to MAP. So you'll hear MAP quite a lot if you ever speak to us or Amazon. It's a great program, and it's broken down. It's really thought out for customers to better understand how a migration would work. So at a very high level, and Alan will be able to kind of go in a bit more detail to this, but you've got a few different phases. And the initial phase is an element of consultancy funding for a partner like Bytes to come in and do that discovery work, to help you understand, to help you build a business case, to help you understand what the total cost of ownership would be of a potential migration. And then we would move on to the next phases, which, as I say, Alan can run through in a bit more detail. In terms of access to funding, Bytes are one of the most successful partners in the UK. And when I say that Amazon are very generous with their funding, last year, calendar year, we attained $2.1 million of funding for our customers to migrate, modernize, and run new projects in AWS. So it's not short change. There's some significant money that we can tap into for you. And the great news is that Amazon wants us to do that. They want to help us enable you guys to look at AWS and all the benefits that brings, not only within infrastructure, but data and analytics and AI and so much more.
I think what's important as we think about those programs is they are going directly to the customer's bottom line. So whether it's to fund the costs of using a partner or credits for usage in the cloud, we really want to help our customers to accelerate that journey and feel a return on investment quickly, given the cost involved of shifting your infrastructure. So thanks for that, Matt.
Sorry, Amanda.
Go ahead.
I was just going to add, I think it's a really important point that I've missed out there, that Amazon don't just go after the enterprise as well. There is a funding program for each and every customer, whether it's one person in a shed working on a new project that might be the next Amazon, or the customers like Vitality that we're speaking about today. I think it's really important to not think that you won't you won't qualify for this funding if you're too small. That's not how Amazon operate. Sorry, Amanda.
No problem. From startup to enterprise, we're here to support you. Absolutely. Thanks for that message.
So as the one person in my shed, Matt is glad to know you're here to support me.
Absolutely, you're there. You're there. So, Anne, I'd like to come to you now to talk a little bit about, as you see customers going through this journey, it'd be great to understand what is the typical technical journey your customers are going through, and how do you support them to land that effectively the first time?
Yeah, sure, no worries. So there's a great diagram that summarizes that journey quite nicely, which I can talk through. There it is. So here at Bytes, we follow industry best practices for designing, building, and operating cloud environments. We also follow a tried and tested methodology that was developed and evolved by AWS, in fact, whilst carrying out thousands of migrations for all sorts of organizations. The methodology covers the entire cloud journey from initial inception to full-scale cloud-native operations, and it's broken down into 4 phases. So the assess phase is where we try to gain a clear picture of the existing estate, business requirements, in order to help build a business case and provide a TCO analysis for a potential migration. Mobilize, during which we build a solid technical and operational foundation for the migration. We gain a deeper understanding of the application portfolio and any associated dependencies or constraints. And we carry out initial pilot migrations so that we can define and refine the migration process. Finally, we've got the migrate to modernize phase, which can be combined, but it's often separated. So in migrate, we use the processes, tools, and methodology defined and tested during the mobilize phase to migrate the rest of the estate. And in Modernize, we look to try and evolve that cloud environment to take advantage of cloud native capabilities, which can increase agility and reduce cost. So what I'll do is I'll focus on a few of the key activities of that methodology, just to give a bit more insight into how things work. So the first formal step towards a migration is often an optimization and licensing assessment, or OLA. And here we deploy tools to gather technical details about the existing server estate, including hardware specifications, server utilization, and application dependencies. And really the aim of that is to answer 4 key questions, which would be, what does the current estate look like? How much would it cost to operate the estate in the cloud? What are the primary considerations in moving to the cloud? And how long will it take and how much will it cost to move to the cloud? So the process takes just a few weeks, and the results are then presented back to our customers in order to assess the viability of and to help build a case for moving to the cloud. Assuming the TCO numbers from that OLA stack up, and we get given a green light to proceed to the next stage, then the perspective is broadened to gain insights about the customer's current cloud readiness posture by performing a migration readiness assessment, or MRA. There's lots of acronyms in this process. But the 3 sort of primary outcomes of an MRA is an understanding of where an organization is in its cloud journey already, the areas of strengths and weaknesses identified from a cloud readiness perspective, and an action plan to resolve any identified gaps so that we can start to migrate at scale without having to pause to solve foundational issues. The process is really good because it often provides some secondary benefits, which are things like aligning and consensus building within the team, identification of best practices within the organization that can be leveraged and scaled, and a reduction in roadblocks generally that could disrupt the progress of the migration. The other point I wanted to talk about was landing zones. So we strongly believe that it's essential to build a really solid cloud framework into which to migrate our customer services. We refer to such a framework as a landing zone, and it can be defined as a production-ready environment with a standardized set of secured infrastructure, policies, and best practices built in from the ground up. The process of designing and building a landing zone is great because it makes the various technical and operational teams directly involved in shaping their own cloud environment, which means that everybody is invested in it and has an inherent understanding of how it's put together and how it works prior to migrating anything into it. So we carry out workshops that aim to define things like account structure, security and networking strategy, governance guardrails, and we use the outputs of those to feed into a design for a new cloud environment, which is ready for implementation to begin. So at that point, we're ready to get down to the business of migrating. So we start with the first pilot workloads, and then we progress on to the rest of the estate, knowing that we're moving workloads into a secure and well-run environment. So hopefully that gives a bit of an insight. It's that there are a lot of pieces to the puzzle, but hopefully that sort of gives a bit of a summary of that journey. Obviously, if there are any questions, feel free to reach out, anyone, and either myself or one of my colleagues will be happy to help.
Thank you, Alan. And I think that really demonstrates the value of working with a partner like Bytes, because you've done this multiple times with multiple customers, and you can bring that best practice to the customer for the first time, which is really, really important. So Sean, you are one of those customers who's gone through this migration. Are there any best practices that you could share with the customers who are on the call today thinking about doing this migration, and any top tips you can give them?
Sure. So I think there's a couple of key areas, that I would share. And the first is that this is not a technology program. It needs to be a business program as well. So the first thing with me, from my side, would be to find the business sponsor and to engage with those people. So it starts well before you do your business case and take that to the board. If it's a board, or if you the guy in the shed, then I guess it's just by yourself. But is to engage with the business and find your key stakeholders in the business and engage with them. And you need them to buy in. And the reason for that is the moving of the technology we hand off to somebody like Bytes, which is great, and they do all the planning phases, as Alan has said. But ultimately, when you move a workload, you've got to have the business engagement. It might be a third party that also looks after that, so you need to understand that. And then you also need to engage them when you move it, so they can test it, they can be prepared. You don't do it during the key end of year financial weekend, for example, which is not a great thing to try and do. So it's that whole engagement around that plan and to get them bought into the program and excited about it. And I think if you can do that, more than half the job is done. So there's no resistance pushing back from the business side. And the other one, and it's something that Alan's touched on for me, is just plan. When you buy a house, it's location. When you do a migration, it's plan. And there's no level of detail that's too low. And that's once again where Bytes has been really great in supporting us in that process with their standard templates and their standard best practice in that. And as Alan has mentioned as well, is you've got to think around your security posture right up front. What is it going to look like? Because as you move workloads, you need to have all of that in place. You can't go and add it later. Because once one system's up and running, there's no real opportunity to go back and adjust that. So you want to get your security posture right up front as part of that planning. The other thing, and there's only two more, the other thing is move at pace. So spend all your time in planning, designing, setting up, but once you kind of hit the go button, is you don't want to be running across two environments for an extended period of time. So compress that as much as you possibly can and move it, because you'll de-risk the migration. I've been involved in a lot of migration in my time, and not always to cloud. Often it was just data center to data center, in the old days on-prem. And the time we ran into trouble every single time was when it was an extended migration. You've really got to plan it out and then just hit the button and migrate. So that was the other one. And the last one is just use a partner who can take you along this journey. That would be my last piece of advice.
That's really interesting. Thank you so much, Sean. Matt, I'd like to come to you now. Alan actually referenced that migration motion and then potentially looking at how, if you've lifted and shifted, how do you modernize? So how do you approach that at Bytes? What's the advice you give to customers and what does that journey look like for them?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, and my answer is very much as a case-by-case basis. Every customer is different, the way they operate, the way they utilize IT services and potentially the cloud. So what we always do is we don't have a one-size-fits-all methodology. We have, another element of discovery there to look at what those workloads are. But again, Amazon being Amazon, they've got another funding program. So to give you an indication, we've got a program called Windows Modernization program. So what that's looking to achieve for customers is to move them from a lift and shift, which is what we generally talk about as a starting point, to getting those customers into a cloud native space. So utilizing certain databases like Aurora or Babelfish, which are Amazon names for some of their databases. Windows to Linux, .NET to .NET Core, and we get some discovery funding, which again, that non-committal element for us to do that level of discovery, to understand what's best for you, not what's best every time. It's not just that one size fits all. I think it's really important because it helps customers ensure that they are doing what's right for them, and Amazon and Bytes can take you on that journey. And then once you've done that level of discovery, we give maybe 1, 2, 3 options, and then following that, we make a decision on how best to progress. And then there's some funding again for the implementation of that modernization. So it's absolutely where customers need to be. If you want to be that forward-facing, that innovative business that can create services and products, very quickly, and that's what we can do to help you. So going back to that end-to-end element I mentioned before, it doesn't just stop with a migration. We want to ensure that we're continuing to modernize you, ensure that you're using cutting-edge cloud technology within your business.
Fantastic, thank you. So, in summary, as I hear the story on how Vitality have accelerated their journey to the cloud, I've really heard the fact that it's helped you to save cost, it's helped you to accelerate your business outcomes, it's helped you to innovate, and by using a partner, you've got it right the first time, leveraging their experience. So that's been a really fantastic journey. Thank you so much to Bytes and Sean for sharing that. We're now going to go to questions that we've been asked by the audience, and if you have a question, please feel free to jump it into the chat. And we have James Bodeville from AWS helping us to take those questions. James, would you like to start us with the first question, please?
Yeah, sure. We have had a couple of questions come in, so do please keep them coming in. Our first question is actually to Sean. Sean, customers are looking to consume out-of-the-box solutions with our software partners. How are you looking to use the AWS marketplace moving forward as part of your cloud journey?
So certainly we have engaged with that. It's something that in the past we haven't used significantly, but certainly going forward as part of this migration is we've engaged our sourcing team and we've gone through our list of suppliers, and anybody that sells their products through marketplace, we will engage for that. With that, it just makes sense to us. It's once again, it's about that visibility of cost end to end. So in one place, you can go and you can see your costs. So now, we can start to include software services and that and other types of service. And there's been cases where we are buying professional services through some of the third parties because it just makes sense for us to push it through that marketplace environment. So that is a big part of our strategy going forward, is to engage with marketplace.
Fantastic, and I guess that's helped you with speed to market and deploying those out-of-the-box solutions as well.
Absolutely.
What about the procurement strategy? Has it helped you to speed up in that area as well?
Yes, it has. I think one of the advantages of marketplace as well for us is the speed to onboard new suppliers. As a financial services organization, we work in a regulated environment, so onboarding suppliers is not always the quickest and the easiest thing for us to do, but by engaging through the marketplace, it does help us in that space as well.
Great, thank you, Sean. Our next question is actually to Bytes. The question here is, how do you approach situations where customers are looking to upskill their own teams versus working with a partner?
So I suppose I can take the first element, and then I would love to get Alan's opinion in terms of that knowledge share that we will always be doing as part of any migration project. But we absolutely want to support those technical teams. Amazon have got a lot of learning and skills enablement sessions. They have a lot of training, a lot of amazing resources on their websites to help customers, upskill and gain knowledge. But yeah, we're all about ensuring that there's a level of hand holding and knowledge sharing, which I think Alan would be better placed for in terms of talking about the documentation side of things. So over to you, Alan.
Yeah, sure. Some of the elements that I talked about earlier actually are very collaborative in their nature. The workshops that we carry out to design and build the landing zone, the sessions that we carry out as part of the readiness assessment, they all kind of include the customer in that process. So we sort of go on the journey together, and it works really well because we're definitely not the kind of organization that will build something and then throw it over the fence at the customer and then walk away. We'd like to be there to continue to support going forward. So migrations are a really good example of that. We sort of build collaboratively, designing and building, and then we conduct handover sessions at the end as well, so that our customers are empowered to operate that environment, straight away, hit the ground running, rather than it being a sort of step. It's more of a learning curve. We do also provide training services for AWS as well. We provide that both directly as part of the project, but also as separate packages as part of projects as well, through training partners and things like that. So we sort of do everything we can to make sure that the customer is in a really good position to continue to innovate in the cloud once they're there.
Great, thank you, Alan and Matt, for that. So we've had lots of customers listening to all of the great advice that Sean has given us on the journey that Vitality has been on. But so if they were really interested in taking this forward, what are the next steps to working with Bytes on their cloud migration journey?
Yeah, so it's really simple. Amazon make those funding programs that I've referenced today very accessible. So very easy procedure and process that we've got, very slick now. So engaging with us via either your AWS account manager or us directly, and then we bring in the Amazon team. We would get on an initial call, understand, what you guys are doing, the timelines that you're running to, and any other specific knowledge that we'd need. And then we give you the best guidance, whether that's the OLA, which Alan references, the migration assessment, or something a little bit different. We can definitely get you to that point very quickly, within a matter of days or weeks.
Thank you. I'm just going to check if there's any more questions available. Please do keep them coming if there is any in there.
I've seen one come in
Yep.
on the general one.
Okay, cool. Do you want to take that one then, Matt? I can't quite see that.
So it says assess phase apart from Cloudomize. So just to maybe talk about how assess and OLA kind of marry up together. The OLA is almost the requirement that Amazon have for us to unlock assess funding, specifically for a Windows migration or a Windows style migration. But effectively, that will allow us to give the business case to Amazon to say, this is what we think the total contract value would be on a yearly basis, so the amount of consumption that you would be running on AWS, which will then be able to help us highlight what the funding program that would be best suited for you, and then that would unlock assess. So to summarize, running the migration assessment, the OLA, will give us the data that we need to present back to you to give you a snapshot of what those costs would look like on AWS and some other variables. And then following that, the assess phase allows us to dive deeper and start talking to your application owners and other business units to better understand how that operates currently and what that might look like in AWS. And then following the assess phase, you would have a really detailed TCO report, total cost of ownership report, and migration roadmap documentation to take you through to the next phases, as you can see on the slide now, into the mobilize phase, where we can start really diving deep and planning the migration phase.
Thank you. We have a second question that's come in. So, does Bytes provide migration help or support for VMC on AWS?
Yep, absolutely. We have quite a lot of VMware customers as we're a top tier VMware customer. So that question is getting asked more and more. So yeah, absolutely have the ability to enable. And again, the great news is that there is funding available for us to do that level of discovery. So whether it's AWS native or VMC, yeah, we'd be more than happy to support and provide our expertise and help you on that journey.
Great, thank you. I think it's just the two questions that we've got in there. Unless there's any final more points from our audience.
Well, gentlemen, it's been really, really interesting to hear about Vitality's journey. I'd like to thank Sean Horton for spending the time with us, telling us about how they've done it at Vitality. And I'd like to thank Alan and Matt from Bytes for their contribution and really helping customers to accelerate their journeys. Without further ado, thank you to the audience for attending, and I hope everybody has a great day. Thanks very much, everyone.
Great. Thanks,
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Amanda.
Have a good day, guys. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys.